A weak rupee continues to pressure stocks which opened weak but steady after the fall amid expectations of some volatility due to F&O expiry on NSE. Financials and healthcare the big drags, while telecom stocks see some green.
Rupee slips to a record low against the dollar, making it the worst performing Asian currency in 2025. Disappointment over a delay in concluding the US-India trade deal and continued foreign investors selling weigh on the rupee.
Wockhardt Chairman Abil Khurakiwala says ICICI can notch peak sales of $2 billion globally, and he believes Wockhardt will enjoy patent protection for 10 years.
Telecom Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia tells CNBC-TV18 a proposal from Voda Idea on AGR relief is awaited and the government should be able to review and recommend relief in about 2 weeks after. He clarifies that any other telco seeking similar relief will need to approach the Supreme Court.
And soon, all phones in the country will host the Centre's Sanchar Sathi app, which aims to protect users from fraud and phone theft. But what's concerning users is the access it will have to their personal information.
Hello, good afternoon. You're tuned into Halftime Report coming live from the CNBC-TV18 Motilal Oswal studios. I'm Vinny Motiwala with my colleagues Ekta Batra as well as Sonal. Sonal, Ekta, both of you all, good afternoon. Sonal, great to have you on the show. I'm happy I'm anchoring one more show with you. But markets today, not that exciting. Yesterday, we ended up almost in the day's low as well. Today, we've seen a further decline. And 26,000 is just what we are managing to hold on to. Even right now, you know, when we're seeing TH ending the show that time, and look at the mid-cap. From the green, it's moved down to the red as well, just in the last few minutes. So that is something that we'll be keeping an eye out on. And Rupee, obviously, that's at record low levels as well.
Hi, Sonal. Welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be a member of the girl gang. So finally, yes, that's good to know. Yes.
But go ahead.
Yes, no. So at the day's low, 26,051, that's the mark that we are looking at. And, you know, the low today was 26,040. We have recovered a tad bit from that, but that's nothing to write home about. We have mid-caps, which are down 0.2%. All the indices are in the red today, barring something like a PSU banking index that's batting it for the bulls but failing. And we do have the energy names as well, which are in the green by a tad bit, but a lot of stocks which are at the day's low. We have something like an Eternal, Shriram Finance, SBI, Reliance Industries, which is a big weight on the index, which is at the lows of the day. And all these stocks are putting further pressure on the Nifty. And of course, the big story that we'll be tracking very closely will be the rupee fall approaching 90. So that is something that has led the discussions going. We'll understand more about that. But for now, across the board, there's a sea of red now.
Absolutely, guys. Well, it is definitely the rupee which is really weighing down in terms of the equities. And you saw that in yesterday's trading session and you're seeing that continue today as well. So it's hit a record low of around 89.92. So it's recovered from those levels, possibly because of the RBI intervention. But remember that it is the worst performing currency that we have in Asia in 2025. If you look at the emerging basket, we've only performed better than the Turkish lira and the Argentinian peso. So that's where we stand at this point in time. In 2025, itself, the rupee has weakened 5% against the US dollar. So that's exactly where we are at, and just about 8 paise away from that 90 mark if you just consider it from the day's low that we hit today. But nonetheless, let's in fact just talk a little more about the markets at this point in time and get to maybe the rupee again. Maybe that should show up for you because there was a slight bit, I think, of a move which took place there. But nonetheless, for the markets, we are at 26,053. So at the low point of the day, and if you look at it, even the mid caps are now showing pressure, so down around 0.17% currently for the mid cap index. In terms of the key constituents for the Nifty, maybe that should come up for you. We do have a couple of stocks such as Eternal, HDFC Life, ICICI Bank, all of them showing accelerated declines at this point in time. The Bank Nifty currently down around 0.3% as well. But maybe we can get to Vivek now. He's going to take us through a lot of stocks which are moving within the framework of what is a weak day for us. So Vivek, just take us through a couple of these stocks which should be on our radar.
Well, that's right. Like you mentioned, it's the market breadth that's a little concerning, more declines and advances, especially the last hour and a half. In terms of individual names that we're tracking currently, well, first on the list with both Union Bank as well as Yes Bank, post yesterday's NSE circular that has come in terms of capping the weight as far as individual constituents of the Nifty Bank Index is concerned, both of these stocks now stand a chance to go ahead and enter the NSE Bank Index. On the back of that, both of these stocks doing quite well. Along with that, the entire PSU banking pack, especially in the last half hour or so, continue to make a little bit of an up move. So names like PNB, Bank of Baroda, Canara Bank, all of them trading with gains today. On the other hand, Info Edge or Naukri, yesterday came out with the Naukri Jobs Peak Index, some strong takeaways, especially in terms of the year-on-year growth on this lower base, almost 23% higher. The back of that stock higher by 1.5%. Vocard yesterday hit the upper circuit. Today we had the management again. They spoke about the very high opportunity as far as Zenix is concerned, higher by 3%. And both Gujarat Gas as well as GSPL, both of these names after a while doing very well in the session today. On the other hand, quite a few laggards as well, none more than Bajaj Housing Finance, almost 2% equity, promoter sparing stake, that stock low by almost 6%. Agarwal Eye Hospital, one of the top laggards as far as the NSE 500 index is concerned. And yesterday, a stock that saw a sharp up move of over 12%, ZFCNV, that particular stock today seeing a bit of a profit booking, down over 1.5% today.
Okay, Vivek, thank you so much for that. Surely we'll be keeping an eye out on all those names through the trading day as well, and if we see any further movement here. But on that note, we're going to sip into a very short break. Up next, we'll connect with Kanika Pasricha, Chief Economic Advisor at Union Bank of India. And this is obviously as Rupee has hit that fresh record low. We'll have a discussion with her and understand what are the effects and where RBI rate cuts would come in at, by the end of the week. Stay tuned for that conversation.
Welcome back. Well, 26,055 is currently where the Nifty is at. We also have the Sensex, which is down around 400 plus points at this point in time. And one of the key reasons is the weakness that we've seen in the Rupee. Remember, the Rupee has touched over 89.9 in today's trading session on an intraday basis. In fact, back at around 89.91 as we speak. To talk more about it and what the macro setup looks like, we have with us Kanika Pasricha, who's the Chief Economic Advisor, Union Bank of India, joining in. Kanika, hi, welcome to the show. Well, while the Rupee has depreciated around 5% on a year-to-date basis, there's been an accelerated fall which has taken place just in the past 2 days, inclusive of today, albeit we don't know where it closes. But give us a sense in terms of the reason for this sudden depreciation we've seen in the Rupee.
Thanks, Ekta, for having me. And I'm sure there's been a lot of discussion on Rupee since the start of the day. And everybody's saying that December has started. We have seen that liquidity in markets start to fade slowly because foreign investors, the holiday season, before start of the holiday season, start booking profits on their positions, if any. And second most important is that the trade deal timing. Of course, compliments to the government, they're working in our national interest. Initially, there was some optimism of November end being the trade deal timing. It shifted to end of 2025 as guided by ministry officials. So the exact timing of trade deal on close watch, which is why near-term overshooting purely on the basis of low liquidity in markets cannot be denied, and we see the levels where they are currently. However, once we see any optimism back on trade deal, that may lead to some reversal. Thanks.
So what kind of levels are you targeting or guiding for, considering the macros? And also, do you think there could be some intervention coming in from the RBI?
So thanks, Sonal. Basically, we think that RBI is always committed to containing volatility in the currency. So while the levels are not known, the data comes out with a lag. But for the past few sessions, RBI has been active in the market as per media sources. That's one. Second, on technicals, of course, if 90 gets crossed, while the RBI is very active, just technically 89.90 was an important threshold. And if the levels get crossed, there can be some overshooting. Fundamentally, Sonal, there is a model that we track. That is that on a 3-year basis, fundamentals get respected very well. And a 3 to 4% average annual depreciation is seen in the Rupee on a 3-year basis. Now, the 3-year cycle was FY21 till FY24, where we saw around 10 to 11% depreciation in the rupee, moving from 75 to 81, 82. Now the next cycle has started. Last 2 years, rupee moved lower by 4.5%. So this year, 4.5% move at least was aligned with fundamentals, and we were always calling for an 88, 89 mark on the currency. So near term overshooting likely in levels, but as we said, by March end, correction back expected in USD INR, assuming an optimism on trade deal back in the markets in the next few weeks.
Okay, assuming that, there is some optimism, then we could see the reversal come again by maybe March, and March 2026 is what we are keeping an eye out on. But, just in the near term right now, given that we do have the RBI's rate cut decision, which will come in at the end of this week as well, any change in terms of that, or could we expect a rate cut? What are we keeping an eye out on? Because if there is a rate cut, then we could see further more of a bit of pressure on the rupee then.
See, it's both ways. What happens is that even economists and academics are divided on impact of a rate cut on the currency. Is it that the interest rate differential gets affected with the US and that leads to an impact on USD INR, or is it that the rate cut buoys growth, gets some flows back into equity markets? So I would say from the Monetary Policy Committee's perspective, when there are adequate reserves, then the degrees of freedom of Monetary Policy Committee to reduce rates, even though there's pressure on the currency and that takes the hit, it is likely. So the currency does not become the critical part of monetary policy reaction function. It's more dependent on inflation and growth. Now, coming to our call on 5th December, see, we are calling for a rate cut of 25 basis points. We are holding on to a long-standing call, completely acknowledge that there is a chance that the RBI-led MPC thinks otherwise. In fact, last 1 to 2 rate cuts in any easing cycle, timing becomes very difficult to predict. But very important, from bond market perspective, we think that rupee-led spot intervention impact on liquidity, which is weighted off some 3.5 to 4 lakh crores on an FYTD basis, just purely on that basis, the RBI may at least give a liquidity assurance, or maybe announce specific measures like open market operations, which can be positive for bond markets as well. Thanks.
Okay, all right. Just a two-part question. If in case, according to you, Kanika, how soon can we probably hit 90 on the rupee, according to you, based on the kind of accelerated depreciation we've just seen the past 2 days? And if we do cross 90, what are we talking about in terms of the next level where we could probably stabilize at?
So, Ekta, we've all been in markets for long. Whenever we see volatile moves in currencies, even though central bank always stands there and assures that currency volatility is contained on intervention impact, the levels become very difficult to predict. Moves can happen today. We can wait for 3 more days for the RBI decision. It all depends upon the extent of short positions that are being booked today from a rupee perspective. That's one. Second, if rupee crosses 90, technically the levels, as our traders were talking about, can be 90.50, 90.70 as well. But I would just say, let's not go by levels during volatile market moves. Yes, the near-term overshooting trend is at play. It will get contained around 90.40, 90.50. But I'll just say one point is that purely from real undervaluation perspective of 90, it's around 97.50, 97.60, around 2.5% undervalued. Even though there is a case for inflation rising in the coming quarters, it's unlikely to rise sharply. So case for runaway depreciation in the currency is very capped. We don't see moves beyond maybe 90.40, 90.50 on a technical basis. And in fact, we don't see March end these levels sustaining.
Kanika, just a quick word, because it said fundamentally also, every time there's a 3-year cycle, right? You were talking about in terms of depreciation. That's around 10% that you see in 3 years. So right now that 10% is done for the time period and we'll not see anything further, right? And if we see something further, then that's a one-off case.
Yes, that's sentiment-led overshooting.
Okay.
And that does get corrected eventually, which is why we don't see these levels sustaining. We hope that the trade deal gets finalized at least before March end. In fact, if it happens in December, even better.
Yeah.
So that will lead to a threshold shift back in the currency in our view.
Take that point, Kanika. Thank you so much for joining in. US-India trade deal that, of course, not only the bond market or rupee market, even the equity markets are watching out for. So we'll watch out for that. And as you said, wait for 3 more days to see what RBI has to say about this. Thank you so much for joining in with your insight and the outlook on rupee levels as well. Time for a break now. Ajit Mishra of Religare Broking will join us on the show with some trading strategies and some individual picks. Stay tuned for that. Welcome back. Continues to be a down day for the Nifty. So let's get in some F&O trends going. Mangalam Malu is joining us with all the details. Mangalam?
It's a down day, but the market seems to have moved around this 26,050 mark for the frontline index ahead of expiry, and that's the range that now the street is expecting could play out as we move towards the expiry as well. The Nifty bank is slightly under pressure. The mid-cap index, yes, down by 90 points, but at a percentage, on a percentage basis, it's a relative outperformer. For brief periods in today's trading session, it did go into the green as well. The advance decline, that's the bigger problem there. 2 stocks declining for every stock which is advancing, but there are pockets of outperformance. The biggest of them all is because of the weakness in the rupee. Those who get revenues in dollars are doing fairly well. So you have names like Birla Soft, you have Samvardhana Motherson, a couple of these pharma names as well, Glenmark Pharma, all of them outperforming in an otherwise wobbly market. Tire stocks are also doing fairly well. So you have Balkrishna Industries, MRF, Apollo Tyres. So that's one pack which is fairly well bid. Balkrishna, of which gets a fair amount of their revenues from the exports. And we have PSU banks which are outperforming as well on hopes of higher weight on the Nifty bank, and as a result of which higher inflows too. But if you look at the active options, that tells you that maybe the option writers believe that the range would be 26,000 to 26,100. Why? Because on expiry day, you see a lot of straddles being written. The 2650 straddle is extremely crucial. So 26,050 call has a premium of what, 47 rupees. 26,050 put comes up for you. That has a premium of 26 rupees. Add both of them together, you are looking at a 75 rupee band on either side of 26,050, and that is further cemented by the action that we're seeing on the 26,100 call and the 26,000 put. Both of them extremely active with over 5 crore shares in open interest. So 26,000 or 25,980 to 26,000 is support, and 26,100 to 26,120 is the resistance on the index today.
Okay, Mangalam, thank you so much for that. Surely we'll be keeping an eye out on more updates in terms of the support, resistance, and if any change comes in through later part of the day as well. Okay, we do have some flashes that's coming from the telecom minister as well. The Sanchar Sathi app is optional. It can be deleted if you want. That's the latest update. So firstly, there was a misunderstanding, I think, that we thought that it would come in no matter what on your phone. Because
or even if it is on your phone, I think it'll just be loaded on your phone and you can decide
whether to use it or no. But there was a bit of a confusion, I think, and now this seems like it's a clarity as well, that even if it comes in with your update, maybe you can delete the app as well.
It's up to you whether you want to use it or not.
So that is the latest update that we have, and this is from the telecom minister himself. But let's move on and keep it going with the markets then. We have Ajit Mishra, Senior Vice President, Research, Religare Broking, joining us now to talk on the technicals. Ajit, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Mangalam was mentioning some support and resistance level as well today. But if we break that support, then what should we watch out for? Nifty, Bank Nifty, what are you keeping an eye out on?
Good afternoon, Vinay. So yes, in fact, it's been almost 3 days now that after making a new record highs, the markets were witnessing consolidation in a very tight range. Today, we are seeing a bit of profit taking in the banking index, which was leading from the front. So it's a normal profit taking so far. Means if you see from August onwards, we are seeing that market witnesses a strong directional move followed by a retracement phase. So this is what we are currently experiencing. The good part is that we are still holding above the 20 EMA mark, which is around this 25,950 level. So as long as we are maintaining above this zone, one should continue with the buy and dips approach. On the higher side, 26,300 is something that positionally is a key hurdle now. So the moment we surpass this 26,500, 700 is something the market is going to attempt.
Okay, all right. Well, Ajit, just hold that line because we do have the telecom minister talking. So let's just cut across.
वो डोरमेंट रहेगा, डिलीट करना है तो डिलीट कर लो। पर क्या हो, एक मिनट, पर हर व्यक्ति को देश में नहीं मालूम कि मुझे फ्रॉड से प्रोटेक्ट करने के लिए, मुझे चोरी से प्रोटेक्ट करने के लिए ये ऐप है। तो हर व्यक्ति तक ये ऐप पहुंचाना हमारी जिम्मेदारी है। अगर आपको डिलीट करना है तो डिलीट कर दो, नहीं इस्तेमाल करना है तो रजिस्टर मत करो। जब आप रजिस्टर करोगे तभी तो एक्टिव होगा, रजिस्टर नहीं करोगे तो इनएक्टिव होगा।
इसका मतलब संचार साथी ऐप हम डिलीट कर सकते हैं अपने फोन में?
बिल्कुल डिलीट कर सकते हो आप।
सिर्फ इनबिल्ट ऑप्शन है, उसे आप डिलीट कर।
आप उसको जिस तरीके से अपने फोन पे दूसरे ऐप को दबाओगे और कहोगे डिलीट, वैसे इसको भी दबा सकते हो और कह सकते हो डिलीट। चलिए,
संचार साथी
प्रॉब्लम क्या है कि विपक्ष कुर्सी के नीचे, कुर्सी के पीछे, कुर्सी के लिए मुद्दे ढूंढ रहा है। अब सभी भ्रमों को दूर करना सरकार की जिम्मेदारी है और सारे मुद्दे मैंने आपके समक्ष रख दिए कि आज तक पिछले 2 वर्षों में संचार साथी पोर्टल और संचार साथी ऐप के आधार पर कितनी सुविधा जनता को मिली है, कितना पैसा जनता का बचा है। और ये भी आंकड़े आपके सामने रख दूं, एक साल में 2024 में अकेले हमारे देश के अंदर 22,800 करोड़ रुपए के फ्रॉड हुए हैं। तो एक तरफ विपक्ष चिल्ला रहा है कि आप फ्रॉड कैसे रोकेंगे, दूसरी तरफ अगर संचार साथी का ऐप हमने आम नागरिक को दे दिया तो कह रहे हैं पेगासस। तो करो तो मरो, न करो तो मरो। तो जो लोग सत्य नहीं देखना चाहते हैं उन लोगों को हम सत्य नहीं दिखा सकते। जो लोग सुविधा इस्तेमाल करना चाहते हैं वो करें, जो नहीं करना चाहते हैं और डिलीट करना चाहते हैं वो डिलीट करें। प्रॉब्लम क्या है? थैंक यू।
Okay, well, making it absolutely amply clear that the app which we're talking about is completely optional at this point in time. It will be uploaded on your phone, the Sanchar Sathi app. It will be uploaded on your phone. It is your choice on whether you want to register on it and whether you want to use it going forward. Now, what it's going to do is that if in case your phone is stolen, it will help possibly block your phone, and hence your phone will not be able to be used anywhere, wherever it is located, even with a new SIM. And there's one more thing which can be done. For example, if in case you want to see which other numbers are being used under your name, those are the other options that are available on that particular app. But making it amply clear that it is absolutely optional. It's up to you whether you want to use it or not, and whether you want to delete it or not.
But just some updates, because people were worried whether your data will be used, which is stored on your mobile phone. So that goes away if you do not register for it, right?
Yeah.
So that is an important update, that your data will not be available for the authorities if you do not register for this particular app. And that is an important clarification, because data privacy or the privacy breach is something that was something that the users did not appreciate so much in the initial update that had come by. But let's go back to the markets after this important clarification that has come by. Ajit, you spoke about important levels on the Nifty and overall markets. What about individual stocks that you have on your radar?
Yeah, so considering that the market tone is still up, we are not seeing this correction as a reversal. So continue with the long side approach. IDFC First Bank, after this initial consolidation, looks set for the next leg of the up move. 86 is what we are eyeing in the near future. So with stop at 79, one can accumulate IDFC First Bank at current levels. Then from the pharma space also, we are seeing that gradually all these stocks, the rotational basis are catching up. It's turn for Glenmark to resume the rally. So 2080 is what we are eyeing as a target zone for Glenmark during this recovery phase, with 1920 as a stop loss.
Okay. Well, some news coming in on Spark. So I think Spark should also come up for you because the Spark stock is up around 7%. The US District Court has granted a summary judgment which is in favor of Spark for a particular drug, Sezibi PRV. So that's the reason why you're seeing the stock up around 14% reacting to this bit of news. And the summary judgment, I'll go through that and give you a sense in terms of how important it is. But it's in favor of Spark in the matter of issuance of a priority review voucher, PRV, associated with the approval of this particular drug. So that's the reason why you're seeing the stock up around 13.5%. Ajit, in fact, just wanted your thoughts on stocks such as Spark, Ease My Trip also, which is up around 17%. So these are a couple of stocks which seem to be shining in today's trading session. Also add HCC to the mix.
So, Ekta, as we all know that the kind of underperformance most of these small cap names are still facing means while the markets at the record highs, we still have a long way to go when it comes to the small cap space. Some of these names like Spark, Ease My Trip, mostly stocks were trading closer to their 52 weeks low. Today, yes, being an exceptional day that the volumes, price action both indicates near-term relief. So since the trend is overall still down, I feel that these kind of rebounds should be utilized as an opportunity to exit your longs if you are stuck.
Okay. Surely we'll be keeping an eye out on that. Thanks, Ajit, for joining us this afternoon and giving us in terms of individual stock names, views, as well as the markets. But on that note, we're going to slip into a very short break. On the other side, Manisha Gupta will be joined by Ajay Goel, chairman at Wheat Products Promotion Society. Stay tuned in for that conversation.
On the show now is Ajay Goel. He's chairman at the Wheat Producer Promotion Society. Mr. Goel, thank you so much for joining in. First of all, your reaction to the wheat production numbers for Rabi, because the overall Rabi is up by, Rabi sowing that is up by 10% as compared to last year. And wheat clearly the best gainer apart from core cereals. We've seen 17% higher sowing as compared to last year. How are you reading the numbers to begin with?
Can you repeat it?
Mr. Goel, I was asking you on what is your sense on the sowing numbers that we are looking at?
I think there's an audio problem.
Mr. Goel, is my voice clear to you?
Yes, are you audible now?
All right. I was asking you on your sense on the Rabi sowing numbers to begin with.
So definitely the early year by about 10 to 15 days. So the run-up has been a bit quicker than previous year. So we could look at that area of about 3-4% higher than previous year when the ultimate number comes out for wheat.
Mr. Goel, what is your sense also on the overall government procurement that you're looking at? Because last year was the best that we saw in 4 years. There also are expectations that via OMSS, we could be looking at much of wheat coming out into the markets in the next couple of months.
I don't think much will come from the government because the market doesn't need the government wheat this year. There is sufficient in the system, and as far as the government stock is concerned, next year we could see on 1st June the government actually carrying over 50 million tons with a 20 million tons of a 30 million metric tons procurement. We could actually see one of the biggest surplus years of government stocking next year.
And in that instance, is there any possibility of at all that we might be looking at exports being opened up?
So definitely, I think the government looking at their stock next year will be compared to relook at the entire export ban that is going on. And on its own accord, the government might, just to manage its own stock, look at exports. And definitely that seems a 100% possibility in the next year.
I know, I understand the sowing is still on, Mr. Goel, and these are perhaps early days, but are you also working with a record 117 million tons of a wheat crop for the coming season?
Yes, definitely. We are going to have our, highest output. It's just weather dependent at the end of the, just before the harvest. If things are all normal and good, we'll surpass all our previous numbers, I guess.
Mr. Goel, the other thing really is about the wheat product export that the government has talked about. What has been done on that front at point?
So the Food Ministry, Ministry of Public, it to the DGFT and the Commerce Ministry. The ball is in their court. People are hoping for an order very soon It will be unfortunate if it doesn't come now, because we are now heading to a big glut situation in the next 3-4 months. So we are hopeful.
All right. Also, how are you looking at the Indian demand going forward now? We do understand it is usually around the winter time that the wheat demand is on the stronger side. What is your sense on that one? And how much would you say is the private trade holding when it comes to wheat?
So I think the private trade continues to hold more than 4 to 5 million tons as on date. And I think private trade will also be carrying forward its own stocks by about 1 million or 2 in the next year, because everybody was playing it very safe, looking at the past experience. And this year the demand has been pretty low. It's not come out as expected, even after the GST cut, the good weather, the peak season for consumption. There doesn't seem to be any extra demand or any push in the market.
So, Mr. Goyal, if you were to compare it with last year, what is the kind of wheat demand that the current year has seen then? Is there a, are you saying it's a slow growth, it's a degrowth? What is it like?
I won't be surprised if it's just static. I don't think it's a degrowth, but definitely there is hardly any growth, I would put it in that bracket.
And that is the case for, baked products as well, food processed?
Across the line, flour consumers like be it biscuits or breads or noodles, all subcategories put together, there doesn't seem to be any traction.
How are you looking at the prices as well?
Prices are quite subdued all over India because of lack of demand and oversupply situation, almost a glut in the wheat market. And this whole year has been flattish, very flat. We are at the same price level at which we were at the start of the season.
How are you then looking at the markets going forward? I mean, we're looking at a bumper crop yet again. Government is holding record numbers as well. Not record numbers, but the highest in 4 years. And as you said, we perhaps could be looking at the biggest number ever. How soon would you say could be a review when it comes to exports going forward?
Government has been promising to review, and there was some ray of hope when the Food Ministry recommended to the DGFT. Everybody was hopeful of an order, but even that has not come. So there is total inaction as far as wheat policy is concerned currently. And of course, the government has opened up OMSs, but at half the frequency to normal years. It's now coming out once in a fortnight, and less than 1/3 of it is being sold. So there is a big disinterest in this market because anybody who has put in money on wheat this year has only lost it.
Okay, an interesting chat there. Mr. Goyal as well as Manisha, thank you so much for joining us. And Manisha, thank you so much for taking us through that conversation as well. But on that note, we're going to slip into a very short break. On the other side, we'll focus on Work Hard, which has been buzzing in trade. Stay tuned in for that. Welcome back to Halftime Report on CNBC TV18. As of now, the Nifty is at 26,060 levels, down 112 odd points in the trading session as of now, just near the day's lowest point. So we'll be watching out for that. But let's shift focus and talk about Work Hard. Yesterday, the stock was buzzing in trade. Today, also, it's seeing some bit of an uptick of around 2 to 3%. And obviously, there's news flow that came in. US FDA accepted their NDA for Sensex. But other than that, we also managed to speak to the management as well today.
Well, yes, a couple of important takeaways, and this is our Insight Edge segment on the show, where Work Hard has said that they expect approval by the mid of next year from the US FDA. They will need 4 to 5 months post approval to probably iron out any kind of incremental issues and maybe possibly launch it after that. Now, the file is complete according to the company, and only an evaluation is required by the US FDA. So that's important because they won't have to conduct any further clinical trials. The US FDA is visiting sites, for example, where the drug will be manufactured. So they are in constant touch with the US FDA on Sensex. Also, the US FDA is committed to a timeline when it comes to fast-track approval. So because this is under fast-track approval, they are expecting this to probably come through in a couple of months or in a certain timeline, because the US FDA believes that this is an unmet need and hence this drug would be important for the US healthcare system. Now, Zenec has been used in more than 70 patients on a compassionate basis. It's used on 3 patients in the US and the rest in India, and the success rates have been good as per the company. The fundamental basis of the approval, however, is going to be based on preclinical and clinical work. Zenec would have a patent for at least 10 years if in case it does see the US approval. They've only applied in the US and India for Zenec because once you get the US approval, it's easier to get approval in other markets. The Sensex file, interestingly, that's what the management said, is that it's not yet opened in India. They've reached out to the regulators on it. The market potential, according to the company, is more than $1.5 billion globally. Sensex should probably record $1 to $2 billion in terms of peak sales globally. And US generally is around 40% of those peak sales, which is recorded by a drug globally. Now, India should probably see more than 150 crores of sales from this particular drug. So that's the management talking on Zenec, which is going to possibly be a big opportunity according to them. Listen in to Habil Karakiwala. We had a chat with him earlier this morning.
For the first time, for us and for India, a new drug application has been accepted by US FDA. And they normally would clear this drug in 6 to 8 months. So sometime middle of next year, we accept its approval in USA. And I think we need another 4 or 5 months after that to really introduce and launch the product in US. There's only evaluation by US FDA of our clinical trial and other scientific information. And they are visiting us to check up on the scientific information and visiting some of the sites where we have manufactured this product. This drug has proved a remarkable efficacy and safety, because one of the important things in antibiotic is normally not given for a week or 2. It was given longer time because the patient came at a very last stage. Actual market potential is about much more than that, but we expect that our drug should do about $1 billion or $2 billion of usage worldwide. US generally contributes 40% of the global market. So the Western market will contribute about 75% plus of the global revenue, and the balance will come from the other countries.
All right, that's the word coming in from Walkhard. The stock has come up from the highs but continues to be in the green in a weak market. Let's do one thing. We'll slip into a short break. When we come back, we'll get you more on markets and a lot of stock-specific action on the other side. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Halftime Report. There was some recovery, but that has been sold into. The Nifty is down 125 points at the day's low, actually. Even the mid-caps are not seeing the recovery that was anticipated. So a lot of pressure coming in from these benchmark stocks. We do have Hindalco, which is at the day's low. Interglobe Aviation is the other one. L&T2 is lower in trade. These are some of the stocks that I'm talking about, which are at the day's low as we speak. SBI, we have seen PSU Banking Index doing well, but that stock too, despite being in the green, has come off from the highs of the day. So we'll watch out for that one. ITC, Infosys, all these names too on our radar. Nifty Bank has seen that sharp fall from the highs of the day. 170 points gone on the Bank Nifty, and a lot of these constituents leading to the pressure that we are seeing on the Nifty Bank as we speak. But let's talk about an important update. NSE has released final guidelines to align with SEBI's weight concentration requirements. Vivek is joining us with all the details, with the indices and the stocks that tend to get impacted because of this update. Vivek.
Well, that's right. So overnight, NSE has come out with a circular. They've released the final guidelines, like you mentioned, to align with SEBI's weight concentration requirement. SEBI, remember, had asked NSE to reduce concentration of weights in indices of stocks that have underlying future contracts as well. So under the revised method, top 3 constituent weights will be capped at 19%, 14% and 10% respectively. For Nifty Bank, the weight adjustment will be implemented in 4 tranches starting end of December 2025. Now, when you're talking about the stocks that will be impacted, Yes Bank and Union Bank are likely to make their way into the Nifty Bank Index. Yes Bank likely to see inflows of over $100 million and Union Bank of over $80 million. Remember, the number of constituents in Nifty Banks will go up to 14 from the current 12. On the other hand, by reducing the weight of HDFC Bank and ICICI Bank. That is how space will be made for both Union as well as Yes Bank. So HDFC Bank and ICICI Bank could see outflows of a little over 330 million each in order to support the rejig as far as Nifty Bank is concerned.
Okay, all right, Vivek. Thanks very much for that. So that's on Nifty Bank additions. But on that note, we need to wrap up on halftime report. Stay tuned. Business Lunch will take all the action forward.